What's up, worship drummer? My name is Jordan and welcome to Worship Drums Made Easy. Today my goal is to help you discover your passion for playing worship drums. I'm going to teach you how to start playing drums at home. No gear, no kit required. So after this video, you're going to know the basics of your way around a drum kit. You know what everything's called, where to sit, the positions, all of that. So you're comfortable, and when I'm teaching you about different details, it's gonna all make sense. You're also gonna know what the job of a drummer is. You know, within each band, it's a little bit different. Within each musical genre, it's gonna be a little bit different. With worship drumming, we have a very specific job to do, so we're gonna go over that today so you know what you're getting yourself into. And lastly, I'm gonna teach you the basic rock beat so that when you sit down behind a drum kit, you're gonna be ready to go with something to play. And more importantly, we're actually gonna feel like we're progressing in our drums. My goal here at Worship Drums is to help make you a capable, confident, and connected worship drummer. Now, I love worship drums. You know, I've been playing since high school, just absolutely loved this whole environment and expression that drums comes with. I've had the chance to play in some bigger settings, and I've had the opportunity to play in a lot of smaller settings, ranging in varieties and styles, and it's taught me a lot of things that I want to share with you. So let's jump into it. This is for you worship drummers who haven't sat behind a drum kit yet, or who don't know kind of the basics or the names or what's all going on. I want to get you comfortable and settled so you can speak the language and be ready to learn this next process. Now, I'm right-handed. My right hand is my dominant hand, so I'm going to approach the kit from what is a typical or normal setup, right hand dominant with your kick drum on your right foot, hi-hat on your left foot, snare in the middle. Now, some drummers will play the opposite. If you're left-handed, they'll switch that around, but for the most part, you'll see kits set up in the way that I'm going to teach you today. First off, the most important drum, typically the most expensive one, at least a professional drummer's drum kit, is the snare. That's the one that's gonna be sitting right in between your legs. You're gonna play the most. The snare is gonna have on and off snare wires, a little switch on the side. Sometimes it's a toggle that moves back and forth. Sometimes it's a lever that flips up and down. It doesn't really matter what kind. What you need to know is that will create two very distinct different sounds for you. With the snare wires off, you're gonna get a drum that sounds a little bit more like a higher tuned tom, which is suitable in a lot of settings. When you flip those snare wires on, you get that classic like snare sound that really drives the band, the worship songs, and the beat forward. On the left of that, the cymbal you're gonna play probably the most is your hi-hat. It's got a foot pedal that your left foot is gonna sit on, your non-dominant foot is gonna sit on. That foot lever controls the two hi-hat cymbals, whether they're closed tight, pressed together, giving you that tight like sound that you know from a hi-hat, or that open and kind of sloshy sound when the energy is really building and excited. Here's the reality, you know, for most of us worship drummers playing in these smaller settings, this hi-hat pedal might not work so well. So in other videos, I'm gonna teach you ways to work around that, work around the quirks, you know, of a cheaper drum set. But the hi-hats are gonna be the one you're gonna play probably the most. Right up from that, keeping going with the cymbals, you're gonna have a crash cymbal. This all depends, absolutely, by the way. This all depends on your church's setup. Some people might have one or two toms, one or two cymbals. Others might have just a whole array of cymbals all over the place. I'm gonna explain this based off of the way I like to play drums, and you'll be able to fill in the gaps once you know this on what else you have sitting in front of you at your church and at your setting. Up on your left, typically I would play one crash cymbal, the smaller crash of the two that I play with. That way when I'm playing on the hi-hat, you can just simply, you know, crash, keep that beat. Off of that, you're gonna have the higher pitched tom, the high tom, tom one, rack tom. You hear all of these different versions. The thing you need to know, it's the higher tuned tom. You go from your snare to your tom. Over to that side, you'll either have another tom, which some people will play with, 2 toms or 3 toms, totally up to you and whatever your church provides. But off to that, I have my ride cymbal. Now this is the second cymbal you're gonna play the most. We play this in choruses and bridges, and sometimes in quieter moments. This is typically the biggest cymbal that you have. To your right is gonna be your biggest crash cymbal. This is the one that you're gonna play after you're doing a different fill or a beat from your ride cymbal. You'll come over to this one. It typically is a bigger, kind of washier sound that fills things out. If you're playing like a big bridge or a big chorus, you can play on the ride or you can play on this crash. We'll get into those details in another video, but that's kind of the basics of it all. Off of your right hip, you're gonna have your floor tom. This is gonna be the biggest, usually the biggest tom. You can have 1, 2, some people have a lot more. Again, it doesn't really matter. Whatever your church has is gonna be suitable for playing worship drums, but I typically have my floor tom right off of that right hip, so it's nice and comfortable when I wanna play it. Lastly, on your dominant foot, for me that's my right foot, is the kick drum. This is the drum that's gonna drive the beat of the song, that your band's gonna need to hear to be able to know where things are. This is typically the biggest drum in your setup, the lowest tune, the one that you're gonna have a foot on all of the time. Connected to that bass drum is your kick pedal, but the kick pedal is what's gonna drive that beat. And then lastly, underneath your seat, we typically actually call this a throne in drumming. But guys, I really don't know why we call it a throne. I guess some drummers way back when wanted to feel super fancy, but it's called a drum throne. You sit on it. It's typically a stool. Some of them have backrests if they're really fancy, but it's a stool. You sit on it. It moves up and down. We'll go over all the details of the cymbal stands, the snare stand, all of the hardware around a kit in another video. This is the basics. You know, this is what you need to know to make worship drums easy. These are the terms you need to know from your snare, your kick, your hi-hat, your crashes, and your toms, so that we can talk about worship drumming, and that'll make it a little bit easier. Before we jump into the basic rock beat, I wanna say welcome. You know, you don't have to have any qualifications or even be able to play drums for me to consider you a worship drummer. You know, you've got the passion, you've got the excitement, you wanna learn drums, you stuck around in this video, you're ready to say, you know what, I'm a worship drummer, I'm a part of that community. This isn't something stuck up and exclusive. We worship God. We play these songs for Jesus in worship of Him. We help lead churches, congregations, whatever you want to call it. We help lead people to focus in and worship on God. If you got that passion, then I'm happy to welcome you to the community. I'm happy to call you a worship drummer and say, you know, we're working alongside each other to worship God in our various settings. My goal is to help you become a confident, capable, and connected worship drummer. Confidence really is the key to not being stressed behind a kit, not getting overwhelmed by all of the details, but really being able to just lock in and worship God, knowing that you know how to play the songs, you know the order that things are coming up in, and you're ready to go. We're gonna detail a lot of information about how to be confident behind a kit, because in my journey, when I wasn't confident as a worship drummer, I wasn't worshiping, I was stressed. I was overwhelmed, I was trying to keep up with whoever else was in the band, and it was only when I settled in, I took the time to prepare, I knew that I knew what I was playing, that I was ready to go, that I truly worshiped God in spirit and in truth. When I'm talking about your capability as a worship drummer, I'm not talking about your ability to play, you know, all sorts of complex fills or beats. I'm talking about your capability to play within the worship music genre that we have kind of created as Christians. I'm talking about the capability to be locked in on time with a good tempo, use stick control to play an appropriate volume for our setting, and our ability to work with the rest of the worship band to create something musically that brings people closer to God. You know, that capability as a worship drummer is the key to praising God in excellence. As followers of God, we want to worship God with everything we have, with our best. That starts not just on Sunday mornings, not just in the middle of that worship song, but actually beforehand when we practice. Now again, I know we've got busy lives and I'm gonna teach you ways to practice to get better at worship drums in and around that. But we wanna make sure our capability matches our passion so that we can play excitedly, but we can play within control to worship God and to lead people in worshiping God, because that's our true function. Finally, I want to teach you to stay connected, both to God and to other drummers in the worship community. It's no fun to be stuck all alone on an island. You know, you can't do that for a long time, and it's the same thing within worship drumming. Your passion will slowly fade on days when you just aren't feeling it. We're gonna create a community around this YouTube channel to encourage each other, to not get stuck in all the minutia of talking about drum gear or what's better, what drum company's better, what cymbal's better, none of that. We wanna focus in on how we can encourage and empower each other to be better worship drummers and lead our communities of faith in worshiping and praising God Almighty. That's my goal for you, worship drummer. That's what I wanna see you achieve and accomplish. If you're stoked about that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like this video. These kind of things help me reach you with new videos, but also help these videos reach the rest of the world's worship drummers so we can continue building this community for people around the world to get stoked on praising God and worshiping Him through drums. So let's get into the basics. I wanna teach you that basic rock beat that's gonna be the start of your worship journey. You see, often drummers are thought of as kind of the foundation of a band. If you've got a bad band and a good drummer, things can sound decent. If you've got a phenomenal band and a drummer who just can't quite figure things out, it's gonna be a tough day. If drums are the foundation of a band, then this basic rock beat is like the cement that binds us as the drummer's foundation together. We're gonna play a variation of this beat in virtually every song that we play as a worship drummer. So think of it like this. This drum beat is gonna be your gateway into a vast, wide world of creativity and expression of worshiping God. We're gonna learn this song in 4/4 time. If that sounds a little bit like gibberish to you, that is totally okay. I've created another video explaining time signatures that apply to worship drumming, how to count the basics in worship drumming, how to count the basics of musical time, and how overall learning that and getting better at that can make you a great worship drummer. I'll link to that video here. Go ahead and watch that video after this one, as they're gonna kind of build off of each other to help you become a capable, confident, and connected worship drummer. All right, so the basics of what you're gonna need to know for this beat are how to count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. People like to make the joke that anybody can be a drummer if you count to 4. Now, I would argue it's a lot more complex than that, but hey, for this, that's all we're gonna need. We're gonna count to 4. We're not gonna need drumsticks. We're not gonna need a drum kit. We're gonna use our hands. We're gonna use our feet, and to get into the basics of this. So let's jump in. Whenever we're doing this, I'm gonna ask you to count out loud with me. Trust me, this is such a crucial thing to learn as a worship drummer. I wish I had have picked up on this a lot earlier in my worship drumming career, because counting out loud really helps cement what you know in your mind, helps build that muscle memory, and make your counting and your timing so much better. Don't cheat on this, worship drummers. Trust me, you will pay for it later. Count out loud as we're gonna do this exercise. I'm gonna get you to count out loud with me right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it, that's our first step. Nice and simple, counting to 4. We're gonna use our dominant foot. For me, that's my right foot. And we're gonna use that on our imaginary kick drum. We're gonna stomp our foot on the 1 and the 3 of the beat. It's gonna sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the basic foundation of the beat. The next thing we're gonna add in is our snare. That's gonna be your non-dominant hand. For me, that's my left hand. And we're gonna tap that on our leg. So that's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, that snare, or that left hand, that non-dominant hand that we're working with, that we would play on our snare, fills in the gaps of that beat. So you get that doom, ka, doom, ka. The last thing we're missing is our dominant hand, so that's the right hand. We're gonna add that on every beat, on the 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's gonna sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's gonna give us the basic rock beat, that do, ka, do. But that leads me to a fun little side note. As drummers, we kind of end up with our own little bit of a language on how we describe the sound of a kit. That's gonna vary for everybody, how you describe things. Some people like to do the boots, cats of like beatboxing. Others like the do, ka, or pa, pa. It doesn't really matter, but you're going to eventually communicate what you're playing to your worship leader or what they're asking for in some sort of mouth sounds. Don't worry, you're not weird. It's completely normal, and it's something that all of us as worship drummers definitely do. All right, so now let's put that all together and play a few bars or beats of that basic rock beat. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. If you're playing that along with me, you are playing your first basic rock beat. Your task now is to play this, I would say 5 minutes every single day. It's gonna get that locked into your brain. It's gonna get that muscle memory down. Play it, tap it on your legs, play it, tap it on a desk. I don't care what you play it on. Play it for 5 minutes every single day. That's gonna get it locked into your brain. You're gonna be able to do this without even thinking about it. Now, for those of you who are advanced, who want to take it just that one step further, if that felt easy, let's teach you the 8th note rock beat, the real foundation of everything that we're gonna play. So our left hand is gonna keep doing the snare on the 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our kick, or our right foot, is gonna keep doing the kick on the 1 and 3. 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now our dominant hand is gonna play on every beat and in between every beat. It's gonna be counted like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You're playing 8 notes in a beat, or what we call 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You don't need to be sitting at a drum kit to learn this kind of stuff, but this is the foundation of what you need to be able to play drums as a worship drummer. So I'm gonna play this on my legs. It's gonna sound really simple, just like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's it, guys. That's your basic beat. If you're comfortable with the basic rock beat, you know your 1, 2, 3, 4. Take it to your 8th note beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Practice that 5 minutes every single day. Trust me, that's gonna get you locked in as a worship drummer and get you ready to go as we build on those steps to get you ready to sit behind a drum kit and play. Thanks for watching all the way to the end, guys. I am so stoked that you are here, that you are joining me on this journey to becoming a capable, confident, and connected worship drummer. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Smack that subscribe button. Give it a good pah, ready to go. Because I want to see you back for the next video in our series. We're going to keep you progressing to become a connected, capable, and confident worship drummer.